शङ्करांश भूम शङ्करार्यपीठसद्गुरुन् शुद्धसत्त्वभासुरान् सुवर्त्मनीतभूसुरान् सर्वभूतसौख्यदान् क्षमाकरान् यतीश्वरान्।
श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्रीमते शंकरार्याय धीमते द्वैतशक्तये नमोऽस्त्वद्वैत सिद्धान्त स्थापनोपात्तमूर्तये। श्री गुरु चरण द्वन्द्वं वन्देऽहं मतित दुस्सह द्वन्द्वं क्रान्तिग्रहोपशान्तिं पांसुमयं यस्य भसितमातनुते। So here we have completed the fourth shloka last time. That was about the conception that Brahman is not there, it is not known. All such conceptions also ultimately the conclusion that even the doubter is actually Atman, who is none other than Brahman. So only being a conscious entity, the person can even get a doubt about even the conscious entity, that is Brahman. So that was stated in the fourth shloka. So in the fifth shloka, it is the theme is continuing. Nano nahamastiti ityevam prakara kopi kasyachit ajnasya jayate anubhavaha katham ahamasmiti anubhavam tadaha. So here, okay, what you have said is okay, that I don't exist or Brahman doesn't exist. That can happen to a person, and that can be called an anubhava itself. But then, what do we say about those people who have the belief or even the conviction, if not the Vedanta conviction, that I exist? So this is very common. Nobody says that he doesn't exist. So this kind of thing is also seen. So how can you call this an anubhava? Then for that, this sloka is giving a reply. Nahamiti vetti yosau satyam brahmaiva vetti nasti iti ahamasmiti vijanan brahmaiva asau swayam vijanati. So nahamiti vetti yosau satyam brahmaiva vetti nasti iti. So a person who says that I don't exist is also really without knowing that he is actually objectifying that Brahman itself. That is, when he says that I do not exist, there is some person who is observing that. So there is some sakshi. So that sakshi is itself this person. So in that case, he is himself Brahman. And even for those people who says that I exist, then also he knows very well that this Brahman alone, he is. For someone to say that he exists and also to say not I don't exist, the foregone conclusion is that he exists really and he is a sentient entity. So for saying that a person who says that I do not exist and a person who says that I do exist, both are actually sentient entities only. So that is the message that this shloka conveys. So we will see the commentary to this shloka. Iti vetti yosau naham asmiti yo janati asau sa nastiti nastitva sakshitvenapi satyam abadhyam brahmaiva vetti atmanameva janati. So a person who says that I do not exist, even he is saying that, being a witness to that statement. So he definitely he cannot be discarded as a insentient entity. He himself is a sentient entity. So he says that satyam abadhyam brahmaiva vetti. So he also is actually objectifying that Brahman which cannot be negated. So that is what is coming as a vritti to him. That is, the vritti that I do not exist is also actually having that Brahman alone for its object. So Brahmaiva vetti, as a sakshi he is knowing that. So definitely he cannot be said to be an insentient entity. Then ahamasmi iti vijanan aham pratyaya gocharaha atma sarvada विद्यमानः तिष्ठति इति अनुभवन् असौ पुरुषः ब्रह्मैव विजानाति अनुभवति स्वयं. So a person who says that I exist also is actually experiencing that Brahman alone when he makes that statement. So this is simple, but then the question was put in a very complex way. So he is giving the answer in that kind of same manner. But then the idea involved in this is very simple and clear. Of course, even that will be clear. That is clear to us or simple to us only after we get exposed to Vedanta. Before that, even we would not have been able to answer this, because in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, at the beginning itself, Shankaracharya says that everybody experiences his own existence. Nobody says that he doesn't exist, and that existence is Atman existence, and that Atman is none other than Brahman. So he says this in the sutra, which is called Tatato Brahmjignasa. There itself he says that Brahman is known to everyone. Only thing is that it is not exclusively known as free from these attributes of body, mind, complex, and things like that. Only that is the only defect, and that alone is being addressed by the Upanishads. And the Brahma Sutra has come to ultimately give that knowledge only. That is a filtered, refined, I exist knowledge alone. That also is giving. So there he makes that statement in the beginning itself. So moving further, nano नास्तित्व प्रत्ययाभ्यां ब्रह्मैव अनुभूयते इति चेत् किमिति सर्वैः नानुभूयते. So the next question, that logically what follows from this earlier sloka is that, okay, if everybody is experiencing Brahman alone, while whether he says that he doesn't exist or whether he says that he exists, why is Brahman not experienced by everybody? So that is the question. So for that, this sloka addresses that question. Brahmatvameva tasman naham brahmeti mohamatramidam mohena bhavati bhedaha kleshaha sarve bhavanti tanmulaha. So Brahmatvameva tasmat naham brahmeti mohamatramidam. So Brahmatvameva, so he is actually Brahman itself, and that Brahmatvam is not being experienced by him only because there is a delusion. And what is the delusion? He is answering in the second line. Mohena bhavati bhedaha kleshaha sarve bhavanti tanmulaha. That he is distinct from Brahman, that Veda is there only because there are that Veda is actually characterized by a lot of afflictions. Klesha is actually affliction, and here the author, that is the Bhagavat, he brings in the idea of Patanjali yoga system, where they have very clearly defined what these kleshas are, and that is agreeable to Advaita also, Vedanta also. So Bhagavat has referred to this kind of thing in Sanskrit Bhashya also. So Sarve Bhavanti Tanmulaha. So this klesha, what these kleshas are these are explained in this commentary. Tasmat asti tvam ashritya swasya brahmatvameva anubhuyate sarvaihi. So whenever a person says I exist, or when a person says that I do not exist, he is actually contacting Brahman alone by when he says that. So brahmatvameva anubhuyate sarvaihi. Everybody experiences Brahman alone when whether a person says that he exists or whether he doesn't exist. So this has been made clear. Ataha Tvameva Brahma. So the person who makes this statement, either of these statements, he is himself Brahman. Tvameva Brahma. Tarhi Naham Brahmeti Anubhavasya va Kagatihi Ityataha Naham Brahmeti. So everybody, whether he says that I exist or I do not exist, both of them are sentient, no doubt. But even the person who says that I exist, he doesn't know that it is Brahman. So he also doesn't say that he is Brahman. So why is he also not saying that he is Brahman? So for that, why is there a distinction between him and Brahman? Why is he not able to acknowledge the fact that he is Brahman? For that, this klesha idea is brought in here. Yate jnanam aham brahma na bhavami iti jnanam mohamatram vidya janitatvat saha mohaha sarva anarthajanakaha ityaha. So that is actually a delusion only. and that delusion is caused by this avidya. So this this delusion is the one which causes all samsaric problems, sarva anartha. So anartha is the one which is all the problems a person faces in samsara, as being a finite entity and being a person among so many other people and having desires and hatred and things like that. So those things are all now brought into the Patanjala system. Mohena bhavati vedaha naham brahmeti brantya vedo bhavati. So only because of this delusion, a person thinks that he is not Brahman. So vedo nama kleshadihi kalushikrita parichinna जीवस्वरूपः जीवत्वलक्षणः भवति जायते. So moho nama kleshadibihi kalushíkrita परिचिन्न जीवत्वस्वरूपः. So this moha is actually, it translates to all these afflictions, and these afflictions are called kleshas in Patanjala system, and those things will be enumerated later. Kleshadibihi kalushíkritaha. So if the person's true state is actually it is a kind of that is polluted by this kalushyam called these kleshas. So kalushya and makes these kleshas make him a finite entity, and the jiva bhava also is born out of that only. So jivatva lakshanaha bhavati jayate. So what is the jivatva lakshana that is being explained now? Sarvepi kleshaha avidya asmita raga dvesha abhiniveshaha. So these are all enumerated in the Patanjali system. Avidya is one, asmita is another one, raga is third one, dvesha is the fourth one, and abhinivesha is the fifth one. So these have been very clearly, very nicely defined also in that system. Avidya is the basic ignorance of what he is, and the mixture, that is the anyonya adhyasa between the atma and anatma, and asmita is that feeling of I exist as a person, and then raga is well-known desire, dvesha is the opposite of that, hatred, and then abhinivesha is that clinging to life. So these are the five things. So he is defining first one, anitya ashuchi dukkha anatmaso nitya shuchi sukha atmani khyatihi avidya. So they have themselves defined that anitya ashuchi dukkha anatmaso. So anitya is that which is ephemeral, fleeting. Ashuchi is that which is not pure, which is impure totally. Then dukkha, it is fully misery only, miserable. Anatma, and it is not atma, it is non-atma, that is a not self. That definitely it is body-mind complex. So body-mind complex, definitely it is not nitya, and it is not pure also. All the impurities are there in the mind, then in the body also. Then anatma, so that, and the dukkha, and it is also miserable only. It doesn't give any real lasting happiness. So, and in that kind of anatma, nitya shuchi sukha atmani khyatihi avidya. So avidya is taking the non-atman to be atman. And what are the characteristics of this non-atman? It is anitya, taking that to be nitya. Then taking what is ashuchi to be shuchi, that is very clean and very nice and very pleasant or pleasurable and all that. And then what is dukkha is seen as giving a lot of joy. Then anatma, taking that as atma. So what is anatma, what is dukkhamaya, what is ashuchi, and what is anitya? The opposites are all superimposed by the jiva, and he quotes them as his own self. So this is called avidya. Then drik darshana yoho ekatmata asmita. So asmita is to take the that is the feeling of non-difference between the drik and the darshana. Drik is the person who is the perceiver, that is the subject, and darshanam is the actually the act of seeing or the knowing. So ekatmata eva asmita. So asmita is the feeling of I exist and that how that I exist comes. This is by taking, everybody is actually a sentient entity and he has got the capacity to know something. But then that knowing something or that knowing capacity is actually because of the idea that one is a knower and there is something to be known outside oneself. So this knower-known division itself is because of avidya. So here the taking that knowership as oneself is this asmita. So aham asmi. So when we say that aham asmi, we actually are acknowledging that I am a knower and I am at my disposal. There are these body, the set of sense organs, the mind and the intellect and all that. And with this, I can contact the outside world and take whatever I want. So this kind of feeling is called asmita. This can be translated to be the pramatru of the Vedanta. Then sukhanushayi ragaha. So ragaha is that desire which has for its background an earlier experience of having experienced some joy. So some joyful thing has happened before. As a result, he expects that joyful thing to happen to him again also. So this kind of a thing is characterized by this is the characteristic of raga. So raga is always having a desire to enjoy something, experience something, acquire something and all that based on a prior experience. So everything happens, there's nothing that is a fresh starting because we have accepted this jivatva to be of an anadi nature, that is without any beginningless. So this raga also continues as a beginningless entity itself. There is no beginning for it, but then the characteristic is that it happens, or it is there is an experience before, and that experience is now translating to a vasana. So this kind of desire, longing for something is called raga. Then dukkhanushayi dvesha. So dvesha, the opposite is to avoid something which is painful. So a painful experience has happened before, and the person now registers, so that experience has registered in him so very well that he wants to avoid it at a subsequent time frame. So he hates the very thought of that event or the object, and he wants to avoid it. So, and when it comes to him, he feels miserable and he wants to get rid of it. So this is called dvesha. Then the third one, that is called abhinivesha, is defined by the Patanjali system as swarasabahi vidushopi tatharudho abhinivesha. So here, even for a person who is comparatively informed about the world, about the nature of things and all that, even for such a person, there is called abhinivesha is a kind of a attachment. So this happens to even people who know the distinction between what is eternal, what is ephemeral, what is really happiness and what is miserable and things like that. Even for those people who are informed, even they are not easily freed from this longing called abhinivesha. So this abhinivesha is been defined by them that way. Then iti pancha sutrani Patanjalina uktani. So 5 sutras have been allotted for each of these things. That is for avidya 1, asmita 1, raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. 5 sutras are exclusively devoted by the Patanjali system to define these things, and then the method of tackling these things are also taught. So avidyadi kleshanam lakshana bhutani tanmula Veda Janitani Bhavanti. So this avidyadi klesha, these kleshas are the ones which are embedded in a person, and as a result of that, a person becomes finite. So he may not be saying it, but then he feels that he is finite. Only because of that, he is having the feeling of kind of incompleteness and all that. Always, he is always longing for something to happen or something to be acquired because of this. These 5 kleshas afflicting him constantly. So lakshana bhutani tanmula bheda janitani bhavanti. So these are the ones which make the jiva distinct from Brahman. So the jivahood itself is defined by these 5 kleshas. Ataha avidya janita naha naham brahmeti jivaha Ahamiti Bheda Buddhihi Tyajya ityartha. So the teaching of this, the message that this shloka conveys is that because this Pancha Kleshas and the attendant Bheda Bhava, that is the feeling of finiteness, is to be given up to a person by taking to the right course taught by the Vedanta. So Veda Buddhihi Tyajya ityartha. So Veda Buddhi is the feeling of I am not Brahman, that is I am a finite entity. So that buddhi has to be given up. And the method of giving that up is through going through the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, that is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga and all that. And then the Mahavakya Artha, and then the acquiring the Aporoksha Jnana. Then in the next shloka, the Acharya introduces in the shloka, Idanim yataha vedamulaha kleshaha bhavanti iti uktam ataha tadashrayan panchakoshan vivechayet. So here this Veda Mula is klesha. That is the root of this distinction between Brahman and Atman, or Jiva and Brahman, is these 5 kleshas. And to tackle these 5 kleshas, or to eradicate these 5 kleshas, or to become free from these 5 kleshas, the best method shown here is to inquire upon the panchakoshas. So this klesha has to be eradicated through the kosha viveka. So kosha, panchakoshas, we have already known about them. The Annamaya, the Pranamaya, the Manomaya, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya. These are the 5 koshas. And the 5 koshas, the Annamaya is the gross body, and the rest are the subtle body. And the causal body, that is the Ajnanam, is also embedded in the Anandamaya kosha. So these are the 5 koshas which we do not know as koshas, but all of us have accepted them. Because the Anatma, that is the body-mind complex, is actually 5 koshas. So the Shastra is actually giving a very nice explanation to that, so that we can get a better idea of them and then take steps to overcome them or to transcend them. So Panchakoshan Vivechaya Nityaha. Na Klesha Panchakamidam Bhajate Kritakosha Panchaka Vivekaha Atayeva Panchakoshan Kushalirdiyaha Santatam Vichinvanti. So he says in the shloka, the 5 kleshas are not, a person will not suffer the 5 kleshas if he takes to the Panchakosha Viveka. So a person who has done the Panchakosha Viveka will not come under the effect of these 5 kleshas. Atayeva Panchakoshan Kushalidhiyaha Santatam Vichinvanti. For that reason alone, the intelligent ones, the wise ones, will subject themselves or will take up the discrimination of the 5 koshas in a constant. Their constant sadhana will be this one here. Tachintanam, Tatkathanam, Anyonyam, Tatprabodhanam, Etadeka Paratvancha, Brahmabhyasa Vidurbudaha. So in that Brahmabhyasa, all these things will be there. That is the addressing the 5 koshas and the addressing the Avasthatrayas and the Dirgdashi Viveka and the Mahavakya Artha Viveka. Everything will be there in the Vyasa. So, na Klesha Panchakam iti. Idam Klesha Panchakam ityadi Krita Panchakosha Vivekaha Purushaha na bhajate na ashrayate. So, these Klesha Panchakas will not be experienced by a person who has successfully performed the Panchakosha Viveka. Ataya Kushaladiyaha Viveka Kushalaha Purushaha Satatam Panchakoshan Vichinvanti Vicharayanti. So, because this kind of a result, the cause and effect has been seen by the aspirants, either through their own experience to some extent, or by the teaching of the Guru, or by their own experiencing and studying the Mahatmas, and by studying the Shastras. So they would be exposed to this kind of teaching, and then they take up this sadhana on a very, very serious basis. Atayeva Kushaladiyaha Viveka Kushalaha Purushaha Satatam Panchakoshan Vivichanti Vicharayanti. So that vichara is undertaken by the wise ones or by the informed ones. Panchakosha Sthitaha Kleshaha na atmadharmaha iti nishchayam kurvanti ityartha. So they come to the conclusion that the kleshas which exist in the panchakoshas alone, they don't actually affect the Atman, or the Atman is untouched by these five kleshas which are there only in the panchakoshas. So the panchakoshas are the domain where the five kleshas act or they operate, but then the Atma is always the witness to them, and the Atma is never afflicted by the five koshas. Five koshas and the five kleshas attendant on the koshas. So here the viveka between the Atma Dharma and the Anatma Dharma is shown here, or it is hinted here in the first instance. It will be taken up in greater detail in the sequel also. So here the Panchakosha Sthitaha Kleshaha na Atma Dharmaha iti nishchayam kurvanti ityartha. So they come to a firm conclusion that the kleshas are all only in the Panchakoshas but not in the Atma. So here we can remember the three categories of Atma that has been stated in the text. That is the Mukhyatma, the Gaunatma, and the Mithyatma. So these are the three ones. So the Mukhyatma is the Panchakosha Vilakshana Sakshi, that is the pure consciousness which is distinct from the Panchakoshas and which is the witness of the Panchakoshas. That is called the Mukhyatma. That is the real, genuine or true Atma. Then the Mithyatma is the one which is the Panchakoshas and the Panchakoshas which constitute the body-mind complex, and they are unreal, and a person wrongly takes them to be one's own other. So it is called Mithyatma. And the Gaunatma is the one which is beyond the Panchakoshas, the objects, the persons, and other things that we see in the world. There we get an attachment to them, and then we try to relate ourselves to some or the other, or some or many of the objects of the world. So that is called the Gaunatma. So whenever I say that this is my property, or these are my kids and kin, and this is my family, extended family, and things like that, we are talking about the Gaunatma. So Gaunatma is what is, it has been very clearly stated in the text that a person knows that they are distinct from him. He very well knows that they are beyond the Panchakoshas and they are not him really, but still the attachment to them is so great, that so deep, that he feels a sense of I-ness or mindness in them. So whenever something happens to the Gaunatma, he feels that it is happening to himself. So this is the kind of attachment that the Gaunatma brings. So it is called Gaunatma because he knows that they are distinct from him, but still he calls them, or he takes them to be his own self. So that is what it is called Gaunatma. Guna means it is secondary or subservient. So it is so Mithyatma is the Panchakoshas where he wrongly gets the idea that these are himself. Then the Mithyatma is the Atma which is not known to him unless he is exposed to the Shastram. And the Gaunatma is the one which is outside the body-mind complex, which he calls mine, or my things. These are my things, or these are my people, and all. So here in this shloka, this has been very clearly stated. So now in the next shloka, that is the 8th shloka, Koshanam Vivechanena Kim Phalam Itataha. So what is the fruit of performing this Panchakosha Viveka? So that will be stated in the next shloka, which we can take up in the next class. We will end this session here now. Shri Guru Charana Dvandvam Vandegam Matita Dussahadvandvam Krantigrahopashantim Pam Sumayam Yasya Bhasita Matanupe Shastram Sharira Mimamsa Devastu Parameshwaraha Acharya Shankaracharya Santumi Janmani Vidyavine Sampannam Vitaragam Vivekinam Vande Vedanta Tattvajnam Vidushekara Bharati. Om Sate.